Let's check in with Chuck Coughlin, High Ground, Fife Symington, intimate back in the day for Governor Symington. Chuck, great to have you on board.
It's nice being
Thanks
here
for
with both
being
of
here.
you.
Takeaway so far, what do you think?
Well, the turnout on the election cycle has been interesting. It's pretty robust. We have a pretty high turnout amongst Republican voters. There's about a 20% turnout of unaffiliated voters on election day. That's over than 8 points higher than what we thought it would be at 12.
Who do those people vote for in the governor's race?
I think they're probably a lot of former Republicans. I think they migrate into the Robeson camp. I think that's the way they go. But that there's a lot of things happening in the cycle that is very interesting to watch. And we're going to be here watching this for a while.
Yeah, I mean, things could change. It's still early.
Absolutely.
And as the votes are coming in, these are all the early ballots. So it's still close and things could really change through the night. I mean.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about that. I mean, so election day voters, so we were doing the math earlier. We think that's about half of the electorate. You guys got it like in the 50s there. We think there's about 800,000 voters out there. So you got a good half of the electorate, 40 to 50% of the electorate still out there that's going to come in. That's a margin that can be shrunk with that with those number of voters. But if I'm Robeson, I'm pretty happy with that 9-point lead.
You're feeling happy with that?
I am.
Can we pivot to the Senate race?
Yeah.
Briefly. Blake Masters is up ahead of Jim Lehman, but it's not by a ton. It's certainly not what the polling was showing. Is this a failure of polling? Or did Lehman do something late that it's 4 percentage points?
Hey, Jim Lehman spent a lot of money.
Yeah, I think it's 18,
let's go back to the governor's race. $20 million of his own money, Karen, and he's got 18. So it's a highly competitive race. The Trump endorsement, as we will talk about, is generally in a race with multiple candidates worth about 8 points. But it gets
8-point advantage.
8-point advantage. It gets you about 8 points of the electorate. But Lehman kept pressing and pressing and pressing. And then, there's some challenges with Masters' candidacy, right? It's supported by high tech. That's not a real friend of the Republican establishment. And so there's a lot of questions around that. And he exploited them pretty well. So, but, again, I'd rather be ahead than behind right now.
One more thing here. It seems, and this is not a knock on Lehman or Masters, but we've got people now coming into the Arizona political scene that people have no idea who they are. What do you make of this?
It's money, John. It's money. It all comes down to be able to put money on the table to finance your candidacy. Masters got a giant a giant infusion of money from Peter Thiel. Karen spent $20 million of her own money making herself a relevant candidate. It's about that. It's about putting yourself in front of people and getting some traction. We know there was a lot of good candidates in the Attorney General's race. There was a lot of good candidates in the Secretary of State's race, but there's not a lot of money in that race. So It falls more into form on those races with the Trump-endorsed candidate being win. I think Trump's worth about 40% in a Republican primary. That's about the top you can get. If you can get over that, and if in a multiple candidate race, that's enough to win.
That would be the Glenn Youngkin approach.
Yeah, that's a Youngkin approach. That's the Ohio Senate campaign as well.
All right, Chuck Coughlin, we'll watch it tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. It was really fun being here with you guys. Thank you.
Good to see you. Thank you, Chuck.